Hi, we're here to talk about the ecological fallacy and answer two quick questions about the ecological fallacy. One, why is it called that? And two, how can you tell if it's being invoked in a piece that you're reading or a piece that you're writing? So first of all, the ecological fallacy is called the ecological fallacy because it has to do with the systems and the levels of a system in which data exists and in which data is being analyzed. So it has to do with the environment or the ecology of the system. That's why it's called the ecological fallacy. And in terms of what it is, because it's called the ecological fallacy, I really find it easy to think about it in terms of frogs and lily pads. So we have a pond, and then within the pond, we have a lot of lily pads. And on each of those lily pads is a different number of frogs. And each one of these frogs has individual attributes. Some of the frogs are red, some of the frogs are green, some of the frogs are purple, some of the frogs are little, some of the frogs are big. So you can tell if someone's committing the ecological fallacy if they are telling a story about one level of this pond while collecting data on a different level of the pond. Some of these associations are okay and some of them are not. So you can collect data about individual frogs, you can collect data about lily pads, or you can collect data about the pond. And depending on what data you have, that's the level of story that you can tell. If you have data about individual frogs, you can tell stories about the individual frogs. You can also aggregate that data and tell stories about the lily pad. You can also aggregate that data and tell stories about the pond. But if you've collected data about the pond, you can only tell stories about the pond. You can't tell stories about the lily pads or the frogs. And if you've collected data at the lily pad level, you can tell stories about the lily pads or the ponds, but not the frogs. So it's okay to tell stories up the ecological chain of our environment, but it's not okay to tell stories down the ecological chain of our environment. That's the ecological fallacy.